All right. Today on the Garage Gym Experiment podcast, we have Glen Davis from the UK. He is the creator of the Quantum Free Trainer. I think Glen's been at this for quite a while now. I don't know anything about the story really, other than some reviews I've seen. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what Glen has to say. Glen, thanks for taking the time to do this. Before we get going about the Quantum Free Trainer story, would love to just get some background on who you are, just some any information that might be helpful to tell the Quantum Free Trainer story. Maybe what your career like was before you did this.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on anyway, Jake. Really appreciate it. It's nice to get involved with you all. I watch the podcasts quite frequently when I can catch them. That is, some of the early ones I tend to miss. Yeah, so I've been in fitness now for nearly 40 years. Started out owning my own gym in 1987, so I've been around a while. Had the gym for around 21 years, I guess, nearly 21 years. Then I sold that out. Decided to branch out a little bit into different things like property and stuff like that globally. And then a few years later came back into fitness because I missed it quite a bit. And I started buying and selling gym equipment and importing it from the US and other places around the world, reselling it into the UK and European market. And then went into designing my own. So I used to design circuits, manufacturing them in the Far East. Again, importing them, selling them to gyms, kitting gyms out, doing gym design and that sort of thing. And then I sort of narrowed it down a little bit, and I used to have a company called Limitless, and I started with the Limitless Free Trainer, which was the original, if you like, quantum trainer. And also made the Limitless Leg Press and Hack Squat, which I installed into the Pittsburgh Steelers, along with a quantum trainer. Realised that I wanted to pursue more the quantum trainer than the traditional type of kit that was out there, like leg presses. They're hard to deliver, they're hard to ship, they're heavy pieces of kit. Same for hack squats and stuff like that. So I wanted to do something different, so something outside the box. Initially, I thought, okay, so I like training on plate-loaded equipment, especially isolateral stuff like the hammer strength and stuff like that. So I wanted to build something that was unilateral, isolateral, that you could use independently or together. And then also I thought, well, I want to be able to use it like dumbbells as well. And that's where the 360 arms came from. And then attaching that to a frame that was good to go, really. So I've tried lots of different versions. There was many prototypes. The original Limitless Free Trainer that I built was more boutique than heavy duty or commercial, although it did go into some commercial facilities. But I wanted to build something again a little bit more robust, fully commercial, that you could also use in a home environment. A garage gym or a spare room, something like that. That was compact enough, but had all the exercises stacked into one small space.
Cool.
That's gone on from 2014. I think I started all that up to present day. So there's been about 4 or 5 versions of the same piece of kit, and hopefully I've improved it along the way and got it to where it is now.
Got it. So before we get into the quantum trainer, I'd be curious to hear when you went back to the fitness market and you started reselling stuff within Europe or specifically the UK maybe. What brands? What were you selling?
All the main brands, mainly Life Fitness, because I sold a lot of cardio at the time as well. The cross trainers, the treadmills, the TR versions or the TI versions, sorry. And sort of followed those through as they improved from Life Fitness. I was selling the better models and so on. So I was in right at the start with the old black treadmills and the black bikes, and things moved on from there. And then I sold all the Pro One, I guess, Pro One Life Fitness, Star Trek, you name it. I sold it. So I had about a 10,000 square foot warehouse at the time. People could visit the warehouse, or I would sell online through eBay and other sort of outlets.
Was it like a retail store or you were just doing online?
Yeah, mainly online, but the online drew customers in because they were commercial customers that generally came and bought, 4 or 5 pieces at a time, whether it be, I don't know, a chest press, shoulder press, you name it. There's quite a good variety in there that they could actually purchase. So generally, I would take the order and then deliver it to them and install it.
Cool. And can you so you started back into the fitness industry. I'm guessing you didn't design anything back when you owned a gym. Is that
No,
correct? Or
no, I didn't know that. I mean, that was the late '80s through to sort of I guess the end of the '90s, 2000s. Then, no, I was obviously taking memberships, doing personal training, and taking care of the customers in general as you do in sort of fitness centers. But yeah, so
okay. So when did you decide, I need to create something, or what led you? I guess what was the original intention, or what need did you see when you decided to go into creating what ultimately became the quantum free trainer?
I think I kept coming out of the gym game, and then thinking, well, do I want to go back? Do I want to get a lease? Do I want to, start kitting the gym out, dealing with the customers and that sort of thing? So I thought, no, I've been there and done that. So that's when I went into the refurbishment and the sale of sort of used equipment, refurbing and selling. And then, well, as far as the quantum trainer goes, from a gym perspective or from a commercial perspective, people who do personal training or trainers in general, usually peak times of a morning or early evening when people go and train in the gym for work or pre-work. All the machines are tied up, so it's kind of, you can take someone to a quantum trainer or at the time a limitless free trainer, and you can keep your client there for 30, 45 minutes, however long or whatever they were training, whatever body compositions they were training. And it would just fill a client's time with their personal trainer basically. So the gyms used to hire it out for an hour or something like that, and then obviously from there the home market kicked in, looking at it and what it could do. Even the first one did an awful lot, not as much as the quantum free trainer. I realised that the home market was starting to grow. People kitting the garages out, people fed up of sitting in traffic or you name it, whatever happens when you go to a commercial gym. And yeah, I just saw a gap in the market, so I basically built a machine, hopefully that fits the bill, and does it all in one space.
So we had like, maybe not at the time, but there are like Smith machines, functional trainers, all built into one sort of all in one, kind of like Force USA, and then you have machines. So I'm guessing you're saying it fits the gap in between that, or what was the specific gap that it filled?
There was always functional trainers around. They were generally cable. They're not like they are now, which is like the whole setup where you've got Smith's rack, cable stacks, cables, and that sort of thing. I think this is something that will work alongside the functional trainers of today, or it will take the place of. It depends, what you want out of your training. It's just a full blown plate loader. There's no cables involved. It's pretty simple. You put the weight on and you move it around. With the quantum trainer, you tend to put yourself in the position, especially on like smaller muscle groups like shoulders or front raises or something like that. You put yourself in different positions to hit different parts of that muscle group, and it works very, very well. It's pretty pinpoint on the isolation for the muscles.
So when you had the original concept, or you want to design something, can you take me back to like what was step one, and what year was that, if you could remind me, and then what's like the next year look like of the original design to yeah.
Okay, so that was around 2014-15. I was kind of producing three pieces then, as I said earlier, the leg press, the hack squat, and then the limitless free trainer. And as I said before, it was kind of getting all your favourite plate-loaded pieces that I used to enjoy training on in the gym, and then putting them into one unit, pretty much cover all the bases, or as much as possible, and move as good as or better than the actual single piece itself. And that's what I've concentrated on. So it's all about movement positions, the movement patterns that the arms can actually do with you putting yourself in a certain position. So education is important with the quantum trainers for sure. And that's the hardest thing I think to get across. That, you can see people on it doing the basics, but it does so much more. There's so many other types of exercises you can do with it. HIIT training, floor work, MMA sort of work, boxing. You can do anything with it. It just doesn't get shown. But that's what I plan to do now, kind of in the next year and 2026.
Got it. Can you take me though back to when you originally thought about the idea and like who did you contact and what did like how did the original development go?
The usual way I design something is a line bed, stare at the ceiling, start designing it. But yeah, pretty much draw it down on a piece of paper. Is that going to do that if I move the arm that way? What's going to stop the arm from hitting the floor, impact buffers, and it's that sort of thing. So I draw it first as best I can, but then you have to relay that to a technical drawer that can actually put that into 3D CAD format, SolidWorks to get it machined, and then I'd make a prototype, and then I'd get that prototype tested by myself and other people that I knew that were in the game, and then if it wasn't right, it would be tweaked and then put right, and it would be an ongoing process where there'd be a lot of money spent, a lot on R&D, finding the right manufacturers, because people can sort of weld steel together, and that it's different when you get someone who knows fitness or has worked out when they're welding and putting these things together. It makes a hell of a difference, and I find that in the Far East, that's where I have the most problems, because I'm trying to explain that through three people, and then it gets the engineer, and the engineer is great at engineering, he's great at his craft, but he doesn't probably exercise. So it's getting through all those barriers. So I mean, China, I've been sort of working there for probably best part of 20 years. I've been there on various occasions and gone to all the factories, done the sort of tours, and ended up using one factory, and this is the factory that now makes the quantum free trainer that has the technology required, and they've moved with the times. They've extended the factory. I just find it easy to communicate with them, because they originally made the limitless free trainer, and now they make the quantum free trainer. So it works well.
Cool. How long did it take you to get your first sale?
I guess trial and error, around 9, 12 months, something like that. I can't remember because it's such a long time back, but I'm quite impatient when it comes to when you get an idea, you want to get it out there, but that's sometimes not the right approach, I guess. So you end up losing money by spending money doing the trial and error thing. So maybe a little bit more thought, I guess, but there's plenty of thought being put into the kit that's around now, and I think it has been a learning process. I've spent a lot of money over the years, especially things like patents. Waiting for patents before you can actually put these things out to market is one of the most irritating things of all. But it has to be done, and you have to patent things these days. I mean, that's why we also work with the same factory in China, because they're not going to make it and start selling it globally. So that's very. It's not to say the other factories won't see it and do it, but to be honest, they do a very, very poor job. And I think that again comes back to where I was saying, unless you're in the fitness game, you're not going to make this thing properly.
Yeah, interesting. I've never heard somebody explain the patent system like that, or just the difficulties of trying to guess what patents are why, if it's even necessary, because you have to sell a certain amount to even pay yourself back. That kind of mindset. Yeah, that does make it tricky. So moving forward to the quantum trainer today, I'd be curious to hear what sort of things has it improved upon since the prior models.
So the prior models were cosmetically, they were probably prettier than the quantum free trainer. As I said, they were quite boutiquey. They were stainless steel circular arms with dual weight loaders, and they had I guess a tri grip where it was almost like a cross, and you had again rotational handles. The end handle having sort of a rubber buffer on, so when you put them on the floor, it wouldn't scratch the floor or anything like that. Very fluent, the same as the quantum free trainer. You could do a lot with it, but it didn't have the attachments that the QFT's got now. Now there's an awful lot you can do because of the attachments it's got with it. So redesign of the handles, so the 180 handles with the rotating grips, the 360 handles for the pronounced grip, and then obviously landmines, and then there are probably another 1,000 attachments that I can put on it. but I've got to get it to market. It's got to get out there, and then I'll start adding them as we go along. For things like foot plates for leg press. And what I've done for now is so that people can utilize it to its max is anything you can put on a landmine, you can put on a quantum free trainer. So, all the different attachments, sort of the shoulder pads for a pendulum type squat. So you can really change it up. And, as I said, I think I'm up to about 200 plus exercises on it now, and they're real exercises. They're not made up. I can run through them, and I will be doing a library for that actually. But, it can do too much. So I always say it does the basics very, very well, and then some. So, but yeah, the difference now is that it's pretty future proof. So, if there's a movement or something comes out where, I want to, obviously attach a leg extension, leg core, which is one of the other things that will be coming out, then you can do that. So, but it's all confined into this one small footprint. I also made it as well, going back to the design with military in mind, because to a certain degree it's quite modular. You'll see I've used spin lock bolts on it, but we're native nuts, so they're machined and waterproofed, and then that's pretty fast to put together. I think I've done one in about 12 minutes on my own, and you can disassemble it even quicker. But I always say about 30 minutes, single person to put it together.
I've seen you promote that. So you've mentioned like the next year, it's really important to, get education out there.
Yeah.
And I imagine just trying to figure out the best way to educate the market has been really challenging.
Yeah.
I would love to hear why you think that is. Yeah, if you could just explain why you think that is, and maybe what do you think the best way to educate people actually is, and how long is that going to take?
Hopefully a short space of time. Now, I mean, some people don't even know what the quantum trainer is. People I guess in the mix of the garage scene and all the rest of it, maybe do, maybe don't, because I've only been able to do so much. But the rest of this year, I mean, the website's pretty basic. That's always going to be a work in progress, because I think I've got the first machine to me on the 17th of April. That's when I'll put all the, the pictures on, start the new library, show you what this machine can actually do, and I think I'll emphasise more on the setup, how to get to one exercise from another, which is very, very quick and fluent. There's no bolts to undo. There's nothing like that. There's nothing to attach apart from changing a telescopic handle in and a telescopic handle out, or a landmine or whatever you put it into the arm at the time. And then you'll know that I've actually put a slider at the back now, so there's sliders on each arm, and that was because of a couple of exercises. That's all. It didn't really need it, but for the perfectionists out there, it will change the curve on deadlifts, and it will lower the landmine. It'll do. There's a few things you can do. And the same for a belt squat, something like that. So it was worth doing, and that's took a little bit of redesign, because I was having to kind of jump into production in the Far East. It was one of their busiest times, the first part of the year. So, and then explain it at the same time. So you go, but there must be hundreds and hundreds of go to and fro in emails with me, drawing arrows and putting explanations, and I'll come back and ask a question. It just goes back and forth for months on end. So that's took a little bit of time to get. I would rather have been in the market maybe February, but it just wasn't going to happen. So it took a bit of time to get it to this stage. And then, like I said, there's probably a lot of attachments that will bring out, and I want to affiliate with people who've already got attachments that are interested in, doing something where, for instance, a weightlifting vest, that you can strap onto the arms, do lots of different stuff with that. So I can affiliate there. And it's not something I'm going to make, but you can use it on a quantum trainer. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, HomeGymCon, where I can actually speak to other people that make other things that I think will, there'll be a synergy somewhere with the machine and what they make. So, I want to have some good conversations there for that. But going back to the education part, it's difficult, but, you can jump around on it all day and watch a minute video on Instagram. But I found by far that the YouTube reviews do the job. And they get it across as best as possible in a 15-minute sort of 20-minute window. But because you get that longer time and people can actually discuss the machine and they get questions about it, they kind of get answered in the video, and if not, they get answered after the video. So yeah, that's gone down very, very well, and I think people are really getting to understand what it can do and whether it fits into their sort of setups.
Yeah, it really is. It's quite versatile and certain. It does have more movements, like you mentioned, like the spin locks. That unlocks a lot of different things that you can do. Um, I with that being said, you mentioned earlier that it does some things really great, a lot of other things well as well. But I'd be curious to hear, what does it do the best?
I mean, personally, I think it's if you're a heavy squatter or a heavy deadlifter, go to the bar. I'll always say that. If you're an advanced home trainer or a beginner, right through to an athlete, depending on what you want, strength and conditioning, it will do everything. But if you're a really heavy squatter or a heavy deadlifter, go to the bar. I'll always say that. I'm not trying to take the place of bars and racks because they have their place in the market. But it can do it. It's just how heavy you want to go. What I will say is you don't need as much weight because it's a fixed position and it makes things quite strict, especially on the smaller muscle groups. You don't need a lot of weight. I mean, the arms start about, I guess it's about, I'm thinking in pounds, 10 pounds, just over 10 pounds, I'd say, without any weight on them. But going back to the design as well, make it something where a beginner or a lighter trainer or a lady could go on there and do something like a side lateral, but keep the machine very durable. Was quite a feat to get right with the arms and the way they impact the buffers and being able to lift for a side lateral and being able to connect with the machine. But I would say it does the smaller groups, chest, back, shoulders, all the lower back exercise. It does very, very well. And as I said, the only thing that you would want to go somewhere else is heavy deadlifts. And I say heavy deadlifts. You can do 200 kg on this thing still, but some people are stronger than others. So I would like to say I've catered for the 90%, and the 10% will do their own thing. It's not all about strongmen, and it's not all about fitness trainers. I've got to get it somewhere in the middle so everyone can use it.
Yeah, but I can see even the strongest finding some value with like the accessory type movements potential that you could do.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've had it in strongman gyms actually in California. I've had strongmen on it over here. There's a guy got it down south who's I think he's British bench presser. He loves it because of the strictness of the movement. So, he's not going to use it for the competition, but he's going to use it pre-competition to build it up. And when you think of HIIT training and CrossFit type movements, if someone went into a CrossFit gym and they wanted to get started, to put them straight onto a bar, if they're at a teenager or they're in the younger years, it's quite a risk really. So this would be a good place to start to develop those muscles to be able to do those type of powerful movements in CrossFit. And so it'll do everything, and it'll do everything very, very well. It just depends on your wants and needs as a trainer, basically.
So obviously a wide variety of people can get value out of this, but who have been the first ones to purchase or the early adopters?
It's really mixed. There's no general age group. I guess there is. I guess it's about 25 plus who would use it, and I guess it's because they can afford it. So you've got to be on a certain salary to be able to afford or spend on a piece of kit like this. And then right the way up to I'm 59 and I use it all the time. I've got people in 60 plus, and what the feedback that I had from last year's sales of the Pro 2 was amazing. I mean, I've got endless sort of emails going backwards and forwards where they'll ask me questions on things, and people with injuries with a free bar and no longer have their injury, they can actually train develop their shoulders still. So it's good for rehabilitation for sure, and it's very, very good for disability users, wheelchair access and other types of disabilities. And going back to 2016, where I think I got the accreditation, it was the only plate-loaded system that got the UK disability accreditation. And I don't think any of the big players got that for plate loaders. So that was a good sign that it was going in the right direction for that sort of thing. So military rehabilitation, guys coming back from wars and stuff like that. So it is a cross section that anyone could train on it, right from a beginner right through to a professional athlete, explosive bodybuilding, you name it, it will do it, and it will do it very, very well.
And would you say a good mix between home gyms and gyms or rehabilitation centers and those sorts of a good
Yeah,
mix overall?
I haven't pushed the commercial side yet. That's a side that I will push. I have been concentrating on the home gym crowd because there's millions of houses and there's thousands of gyms, so it's a much bigger market. I realise not everyone can afford the sort of the ticket price, but anyone who understands the value that you can get from it will buy it, and they have, and they will. And I think that that's the other side of the education, getting across that. You're getting kind of 20 or 30 commercial plate-loaded pieces in one piece of kit. And I think when people realise that, they actually get on it and have a go in it, and they realise that I like the movement, or the different movement patterns and the way it works, the way it hits the muscle. Then that's the hard bit. It's getting all that sort of explained across in a short video, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. But that's why I say the YouTube really works well, very well.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you've been happy with the YouTube coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I've only Mike from Hybrid is the only one that's been on it so far, and he does a great job. I mean, he's not biased. I think a lot of the reviewers aren't. I think that they all do a great job. I've been contacted by a lot of them that want to review it. Mike will definitely be reviewing the new machine, and I'm also going to get one to GGR as well.
Oh, nice.
They contacted me. We talked back in it must have been 5, 6, 7 years ago with one of the older designs, and now we're right up to date, and hopefully they'll be getting one early May to do a review. So I'm looking forward to
Cool.
that.
Cool. And I'm looking forward to trying it out at HomeGymCon. That'll be cool. Um, Earlier you mentioned, you really enjoyed using plate-loaded machines,
Mhm.
and you've morphed that interest and the benefits you got out of it into your product. I'd be curious to hear why plate-loaded.
I think it's just the design started out for that. There's no particular reason. Cable machines are great. I love the functional trainers and all the racks that are out there. Rep Rogue, Force, all these people who make them. They're brilliant. They're great. I love the functionality of them. But it's not to say that I won't put a cable on it somewhere down the line. It's so easy to do, and also attach things like Mayax, Beyond Power, anything like that. That's so easy to do. It's like it would be easy, but right now I'm going to stick where we are with a pure plate loader, and then we can look into that later on as things progress in that. As they, I mean, they've more or less perfected it now. I'm not sure about the Mayak. I haven't seen much about that, but the Beyond Power is very good. I can see that.
Yeah, cool. That. I didn't even really think about that. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
What about sales throughout the world? Is there a certain market? I'm guessing you started in the UK, but I'm not exactly sure. So I'd be curious to hear where throughout the world are these selling?
Okay. Initially, globally, I mean, the thing is now is I think it needs mentioning. Shipping is so expensive. I mean, this thing's 195 kg in one box, so it has to be a tailgate delivery, a collection, and so on. I shipped them from the West Coast from Global Fitness. And funny enough, I sold lots on the East Coast. So last year, shipping cost me a lot of money. But what I've done what I don't want to do is put it up for, $2,900 and then slap a $700 delivery bill. It's not the right way to do it. So I've put it for, I think it's at 3,495 on pre-sale now. But $600-700 of that is shipping. So when you think, oh, that's so expensive, when you when you take the shipping out of it, it's quite a reasonable, it's quite good value for money. But yeah, shipping caught me out last year. There's no doubt about that. Even for smaller parcels, like I was shipping the lat pull and the bench and some other, and the leg extension, leg curl universal thing that I did. It's costing a lot of money. In some cases, the attachments were costing more than the actual physical boxes. It's just crazy. And I think the way they do it is they'll get a list of 15 and they'll choose the cheapest one to ship out of all the companies out there, and it's still expensive. So yeah, I was caught out a little bit, but if it's West Coast to the safe tip of Florida, I know I'm going to get a hit. And if it's California to California, then it's going to be a little bit better. So I've had to average it out somewhere. So I've come to that price and looked at what else is in the market, and its functionality and what these things can do. And some of the attachments will cost you $4,000 if setups on different companies do. So
Yeah.
I think it's good value for money for what it does, and it is future proof. So there's so many other things that you can put onto it, and there's so many things that I will bring out in the future, the near future. So that's kind of where I got the value from, and where I am with shipping it globally is I get people in Puerto Rico. That's the US side of Puerto Rico. Um, Australia. Australia's a huge market, so I'm going to need to get a distributor in Australia. Obviously, I can't ship them there. I guess, but I think it's hard enough to maintain the UK, Europe, and US market. I work alone. I work on my own. I finance everything myself to work, and there's only so much you can do with so much revenue. So, you know, these things aren't cheap to manufacture, bring in, and keep buying to keep it going. So the rest of this year will be on the US and the US only until maybe the last quarter, and then I'll start branching back into the UK and Europe. I think most countries are having a few problems money wise, but I know UK is right now. I know Europe is, but I also think the US gets it a little bit more, and I think more open to change. So yeah, that's the reason for being in the US, and I love the US as well, so that helps. I get some trips over there.
That's interesting. Uh, all right. So, well, first of all, I did catch earlier, and you've mentioned it several times throughout. And I just, for anyone listening, I think it's cool that you've kind of settled on, you've had a few models before, but you've settled on this one to build around.
Yeah,
So I think like anybody who does decide to purchase today, I mean, I think a lot of people are weary of like version two, version three, version four. So knowing that this is what you're building around is excellent info. Um, so we are here like 11 years later since this idea was conceived, pretty much, which is crazy. I'd be curious to hear like what needs to happen for this product to still be around in like 10 years.
I think the same as a rack and a bar's around for the rest of time. It'll have its place, and I think now is a very good time because people who have even got racks and bars, even they're buying standalone leg extension, leg curls, or you name it, belt squats, whatever the case may be. And with this thing doing it all, it kind of you don't even need a set of dumbbells if you know how to use it. It takes the place of dumbbells, right from light right up to heavy as you want to go, as heavy as the movement you can do. So it's a belt squat, as you know. It's a squat. It's a bar. It's free flowing handles. So I think there is a place for it, and I think it will be around for a while once people really get the measure of it and get the gist. And I will just be adding, as I said earlier, more and more attachments to make it even more functional than it is now. So in the same way that people are they're not trying, they're actually doing a very good job of it, of making accessories for racks. You know, and they're trying to make a rack more functional. So I'd like to think this is a machine that is already functional and it's a standalone without any bolts or anything like that, and it does the job. So yeah, I think it will be around a while, and I think as the message gets out there, people will talk and there'll be more conversations. I'll be doing trade shows and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it will be around a while. And going back to coming from the Pro 2, which is the sort of the one before this, I've actually made everything that goes onto the Quantum Free Trainer will fit on the Pro 2. So with that in mind, I appreciate that people, it's been out for a few years here, but it hasn't in the US. So it seems like I've done it in a 12-month period, where it's actually been over a 2-year period with the Pro 2, because I was selling it in the UK and Europe. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things that are on the Quantum Free Trainer that will go into the Pro 2. So anyone that wants to upgrade, just have a conversation with me and we'll make it work.
Yeah, and I think I've noted I've been in this home gym space a while, and it seems like some of the more expensive items where people just don't buy right away, it takes more time to get the word out than like a rack attachment that's a couple $100.
Yeah, I found that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it it's just going to take some time, I think. But it is a cool product. Is there anything else you would want to cover to make? I'm guessing that, I mean, this is a long form interview that I think people who are considering the product will want to check out. Again, it's one of those expensive items. You know, they're going to do a little bit more research, so they'll probably stumble across this. So, is there anything else you'd want to cover just within this interview for any potential customers out there?
I think it, you know, always the comments always come back. I love it, but it's too expensive. But the thing is, in the scale of things and the competition, or if you want to call it competition, and what they sell for, you know, you can buy a Rolls Royce or you can buy a little Mini. You've got to make a decision with your training. If you want something that's durable, is commercial, that will have you know, you will be able to sell this on if you get bored of it, or which would be hard to do because I think you can do, like I said, if you want to do legs, so many different variants to do legs, arms, shoulders. There's so many different ways to do it. So I don't think you ever get bored of your workouts. And then I'll be adding attachments as we go along that'll make it even less boring. And you will want to train on it. And the other thing that I haven't covered is it's very safe to train on. So if you're training alone, the longer buffers and the shorter buffers, the longer buffers are your fail safes. If you're doing pressing and something like that, it's really, really safe. You know, but I think you'll find once you purchase one, you'll find your way around it in a very short space of time, and you'll adapt whatever training style you have. It'll adapt to you, and you will adapt to it. It's just, you know, which number to put the buffer on for chest press, for incline, for decline, and once you've done that a few times, it's like a rack, isn't it? It's the same sort of thing. Where do your J hooks go? So it's the same thing, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be more. I've got more designs coming out of different things. It's pretty hard to design something else because obviously the quantum free trainer does so much. So, you know, what do you come out with? But I've got a couple of more smaller ticket items that will be coming out that again have a lot of functionality, cheaper, but they're adaptable to fit to the quantum free trainer, and also they're a product on their own. So yeah, I'd like to say I'll get them out before the end of 2025. I was actually trying to push to get one of them at least at HomeGymCon. But you know what? It's just not going to happen. So it'll probably be ending the year before we start seeing the next thing out. But so I'd want to be with about 4 or 5 good, solid products that people can use in small spaces and in commercial spaces by kind of, you know, first quarter of 2026, I would say. And I don't think I'll go any further than that. It'll probably be 4 or 5 pieces, and that will be it. But the flagship is the quantum free trainer, and that's what I'm concentrating on right now.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all I've got. Um, See you in. First of all, thanks for doing this. It was cool to hear your story. Cool to hear your take on your product, or just hear it from the inventor. That's always awesome. Um, we'll see you at Home Gym Con. I'll meet you in person at Home Gym Con. Anything else before we close it?
No, just take the time to thank you for having me on, Jake. I really appreciate it, and I'm very much looking forward to Home Gym Con. I think it's going to be a great show. You're doing a great
Yeah,
job there, by the way.
yeah. Thank you.
Gonna be
Cool. All right. Well,
great.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Thanks very much.